Your child is watching you. Right now, from across the room, they see you fill the grocery bag. They see you call someone when something breaks. They see you reach for your phone when you are uncertain. They are learning, not from what you say, from what they see you do when the situation is hard. And what they are learning, in the most connected, most comfortable society in human history, is that problems are solved by external systems. Someone delivers the food. Someone repairs the heating. Someone answers the call. The child who learns this grows into an adult extraordinary at navigating a functioning system, and completely unprepared for the moment the system stops functioning. Behind the Iron Curtain, children were not educated this way. Not by policy, by circumstance. The circumstances of scarcity and unreliable systems produced a pedagogy of resilience that no curriculum could have designed. Children were not protected from difficulty. They were included in it. An 8-year-old in a Soviet apartment block knew how to bank a stove for the night. Knew which vegetables in the root cellar were going soft. Knew the difference between a repairable tool and a broken one. Knew 3 routes home from the market. Not because their parents had a survival plan, because these tasks needed doing and there was no one else to do them. Those children grew into adults who, when the system collapsed in 1991, were not paralyzed. They adapted, they organized, they survived. Their grandchildren, raised in modern comfort, are the least prepared generation in a century. Stay with me, because number 4 on this list is the most counterintuitive thing Iron Curtain families did to prepare their children for crisis. Something modern parents instinctively avoid because it looks, on the surface, like unkindness. It is the opposite of unkindness. Let's begin. Number 1. Age-appropriate competence and early responsibility. In a Ukrainian farming village in 1965, a 6-year-old named Mykola had a job. Every morning before school, he fed the rabbits. He checked the water level in the container. He reported to his grandmother if anything looked wrong, if an animal seemed sick, if the feed was running low, if the hutch needed repair. This was not symbolic child labor designed to teach life lessons. The rabbits were real. The food they produced was real. If Mykola did not check the water container and an animal died from dehydration, that was a real loss to the family's protein supply. The responsibility was genuine. The consequences were genuine. And the child understood both. Iron Curtain families assigned genuine tasks to children from the earliest age at which those tasks could be safely performed. Not the simplified play versions of tasks that modern childhood development culture favors. Actual tasks, with actual consequences. A 5-year-old can carry water. A 7-year-old can tend a fire under supervision. An 8-year-old can preserve food with guidance. A 10-year-old can navigate a familiar route alone. A 12-year-old can make genuinely useful contributions to household emergency preparedness. Modern childhood has contracted the age of genuine competence to an extraordinary degree. Tasks that previous generations performed routinely at 8 or 10 are now considered unsafe or inappropriate at 12 or 14. The consequence: teenagers who have never navigated an unfamiliar situation without adult supervision. Young adults who cannot perform basic maintenance tasks. A generation reaching adulthood with no practical experience of consequential responsibility. The Iron Curtain children who fed the rabbits, tended the stove, and navigated the streets alone arrived at adulthood with thousands of hours of genuine problem-solving experience. Begin assigning real tasks with real consequences. Starting earlier than feels comfortable. Number 2. The Knowledge Transfer Protocol. Behind the Iron Curtain, practical knowledge moved from the oldest generation to the youngest, through a transmission system that required no curriculum and no institution. It required proximity and occasion. The grandmother, who knew how to preserve food, preserved food in view of the children. She did not arrange a teaching session. She preserved the food, the children watched, then helped, then did it under supervision, then did it. The grandfather, who understood mechanical repair, repaired things in the presence of children, named what he was doing, explained the principle, handed the child the tool, and guided the hand. This is the oldest teaching methodology in human history, the one that transmitted every practical skill from every generation to the next, before formal education was invented. Modern parents have outsourced practical knowledge transmission to institutions that do not teach it. Schools teach academic disciplines valuable in a functioning system. The skills that function when the system does not fall to parents. Not through lectures, through doing, in the presence of children, including the children in the doing. Number 3. Controlled exposure to difficulty. This is the counterintuitive one. Modern parenting culture is organized around the reduction of difficulty in childhood. Remove obstacles, smooth transitions, protect from failure. Create environments where the child succeeds. This approach produces children who are comfortable in comfortable environments. Iron Curtain parenting was organized differently, not because parents wanted their children to suffer, because the circumstances produced difficulty that could not be removed. And the parents understood that the child, who had never experienced difficulty, would be destroyed by it when it arrived. The approach: allow age-appropriate difficulty to occur without rushing to resolve it. When a task is hard, do not immediately offer help. When something goes wrong, when the food is burned, when the route is lost, allow the child to experience the consequence and participate in the recovery. This is not neglect. It is the deliberate, supervised exposure to difficulty that builds the psychological architecture of resilience. The child who has recovered from 20 small failures arrives at large failure with practiced responses. The child protected from every small failure arrives at large failure with nothing. The children who adapted fastest to crisis were not the ones whose parents had tried hardest to protect them. They were the ones whose parents had trusted them earliest with genuine difficulty. Stop here. Think about the last difficult situation your child encountered. What did you do? Did you solve it for them? Did you rush to prevent the consequence? Did you absorb the difficulty so they did not have to? Or did you stay present while they worked through it? The answer tells you more about your child's future resilience than any preparation you could make on their behalf. Write in the comments. What is the hardest thing you have asked your child to do on their own? Number 4. The Family Emergency Protocol. This is the most practical section, and the one that most families, even well-prepared ones, have never completed. Behind the Iron Curtain, families in cities subject to genuine civil disorder, cities where political violence, food riots, or military activity was a realistic possibility, had family emergency protocols, not written plans, understood agreements, known by every family member capable of understanding them. If something happens and we cannot reach each other, we meet at this location. At this time, if you are not there after 2 hours, we go to this secondary location. If the building must be evacuated quickly, this is what we take, in this order, in this time. If a child becomes separated, this is the person they approach for help. This is the information they can share with a trusted adult. This is what they do if that person is not available. These protocols were practiced, not as formal drills, as conversations, as the kind of question asked periodically, "What would you do if?" and answered until the answer was automatic. Soviet children who had internalized these protocols and found themselves separated from their parents during the disorder of the 1991 collapse navigated the situation, not without fear, but with a sequence of actions that they had rehearsed until they were automatic. The practical exercise: Have this conversation with your children tonight. Not a lecture, a conversation. What would you do if you came home and the building was on fire? What would you do if we became separated at the market? Who do you go to if you cannot reach us? The conversation itself, the act of discussing these scenarios in a calm, matter-of-fact way, normalizes the idea of difficulty without creating fear. Children who have discussed emergency scenarios are less panicked when emergency scenarios occur, not because they are braver, because the scenario is not entirely unfamiliar. Number 5. The non-negotiable skill set. Every Iron Curtain child, by the age of 12, could do the following without adult assistance. Start and maintain a fire safely. Identify 10 plants in the local environment by sight and know which were edible. Navigate home from any familiar location using landmarks and sun position. Perform basic first aid for cuts, burns, and sprains. Preserve a simple food, fermented vegetables, dried fruit, from preparation to storage. Communicate a location and a situation to any trusted adult. Operate and maintain the primary tools of the household. This was not a survival curriculum. It was the minimum competence baseline for a child expected to contribute to household function. Modern children at 12 are often unable to perform any of these tasks, not because they are less capable, because they have never been required to develop these capabilities. The system has always provided everything that these skills would otherwise produce. The system will not always provide everything. Begin teaching one skill from this list this week. Not with urgency. Not with fear. As a normal part of family life, because the Iron Curtain families who produced the most resilient children did not raise them with fear of the system's failure. They raised them with the quiet confidence of people who had ensured that, when the system failed, their children would know exactly what to do. That confidence is available to you. Start this week.